Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Brian E. Roach.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Brian E. Roach, the host who doesn't like toast. That's right, it's back. It's bad. You're going to complain about it, but there's a reason. There's a reason I'm bringing back that nom de plume for this particular episode. We have a special guest who's joining us this morning, a guy who I believe to be one of the most knowledgeable Steelers beat writers out there, a guy who, if you're not following on Twitter, you should. I tweeted that out the other day. He is a humorous guy. He's a funny guy. And when I called him up this morning, I interrupted his breakfast, and he was just finishing, you guessed it, toast. And that is why I had to bring back the nom de plume. So I'd like to welcome him aboard, Jim Wexell from the Steel City Insider. Jim, thank you so much for joining us this morning. How you doing?
I'm good, Brian, and you know, the toast wasn't very good, and I'm not a big proponent of toast, but I was trying to gobble something down in a hurry to take your call.
Well,
oatmeal's coming soon. Do you have a problem with oatmeal?
No, I have no problem with oatmeal. Oatmeal is perfectly acceptable to me, especially in well, it used to be in the form of oatmeal raisin cookies, but now I can deal with warm oatmeal in a bowl as well. So. Yeah. Well,
I barely can, but it's what I eat. And you know, if ever my wife leaves me, then I will have it for lunch and dinner because it's about all I can cook.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know if I could do that, but
well, sometimes a man's got to do what a man's got to do, and if there's no football and there's COVID running rampant, and the football writers can't make money, that's what we eat: oatmeal, and I may throw in some toast every now and then.
Oatmeal and toast.
Wheat toast. Wheat toast.
Sounds like a prison diet almost.
Well, that's funny because my workouts, now that I don't go to the petri dish known as the gym, I started push-ups, sit-ups, all that stuff. And Kevin Dotson the other day said that he does that, and he called it a prison workout. So I'm already having a prison workout. Might as well have a prison diet, huh?
Yeah, there you go. I've actually done pretty much the same thing. I do a push-ups, sit-ups, and a bunch of other movement workouts at a local park, which the gym's now reopened here in New Jersey. But I found that it wasn't worth the drama of watching everybody yell about wearing their masks. So I went back to the park.
I'm so tired of that. I'm so tired. Put your mask on and shut your mouth. You know.
Absolutely. Just
the other thing though, I'll take the other end though. When I walk my dog and I get mean looks from people in masks, it's almost impossible to get it outside, especially if you're walking your dog and you're walking past people.
Yeah.
I'm not putting my mask on outside.
And neither do I. When I'm working out at the gym, I do not wear my mask. And I don't at the gym. I do. And when I'm working out at the park, I meant to say I don't wear my mask, and I don't see any need
you're
to.
Outside.
Yeah, I'm outside, and I stay away from everybody anyway, so it's all good. Well, let's as we're here, and we've gotten to the introduction of what we believe will be a season, at least so far. It looks like everything's going ahead. The Steelers have, of course, wrapped up what was, I guess to say the least, a unique training camp experience, and it had to be different for you guys that report on it as well. No real meetings, Zoom calls for press conferences. What were the biggest challenges as a reporter in dealing with this change?
Well, let me just say that, first of all, the Steelers have been great through this, and we've been treated very well. However, if the NFL grows to like this situation where we only speak on Zoom, they're pretty much setting up team media as the only future media, and therefore no real reporting. It's like local newspapers all falling apart and no real reporting on local municipalities, and they're running amok. And, the media is important. And if the NFL believes that the future is all going to be Zoom, they're going to lose a lot of media, because you have to have unique information. You just do, especially with newspapers putting up paywalls. I mean, Zoom can be seen by all, and they're using us to ask the questions, which is fine. Anybody could ask our stupid questions, but we're more probing and more going to be more critical and looking for flaws, which the team media won't. So we're kind of on a dangerous precipice, in my opinion. I don't know that anyone else feels this way. I know Roger Goodell was interviewed, I think Peter King, and said the NFL is starting to like some of the things they're learning they can do through this. And I believe one of them will be keeping the media out of the locker room, keeping the media from getting to know these people, because I can still call people. I wrote a book this summer, and I called some current Steelers and got some information that helped a bit. I wasn't probing for information, but I had their numbers. I was able to call them. That just won't be happening in the future unless you get their numbers in college. And I don't think, college is, look at the Pitt Panthers. I mean, all of their interviews are done in a media room. They bring in a guy and everybody gets the same answers, and it just kills uniqueness. And nobody with any sense or ability in the media is going to go to see the Pitt Panthers press conference or cover them. They're just not going to want to. And they're wondering why that 15,000 people show up on average to Heinz Field. That's part of the reason. Not opening up the locker room, I think, is a big mistake in college football. And you get it in these fiefdoms where the college football team runs things, probably runs local governments.
Yeah.
So, that's a dangerous situation. So, you have to start looking into other avenues of employment.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would be, I certainly hope it does not go down that path. I think I actually read one of your pieces that mentioned that as well. And, so much has changed in the world and in the way we have to do things. But there are certain aspects of reporting that just require a more up close and personal view, and to have media filtered out, basically, that's a scary thought in my mind as well. I agree with you on that.
Let me just give you one example of how I operate. I look for the herd mentality and go in the opposite way. I'm very comfortable talking to all players. I really have had no enemies, and as I preface this story, it's funny, you will think I have an enemy, but I really don't dislike people. They're all characters on a stage to me. They're all unique personalities. If that personality is being a jerk, well, whatever. I mean, you can decide that. I'm going to interview the guy anyway, and I'm going to get to know the guy and hopefully gain his trust in some way. But the herd will gather around, say, Ryan Clark always was a great quote.
Yep.
And towards the end of his career here, he started to dislike the media, and for whatever reason, especially me. And there was a big mob around Ryan Clark, and I'm like, okay, good. This opens up the rest of the locker room. I can get one-on-ones. So I'm around getting one-on-ones, and I come over, and the Ryan Clark herd is breaking up, and I see Eddie Bouchette, and he's laughing. He sees me, and he comes up, oh, you'll love this. I go, what? What's so funny? He goes, he was just ripping on you, man. It's funny. I'll give you the tape later. I'm like, wait a minute, what? He goes, yeah, it's funny. I go up to Ryan. I said, I heard you were ripping on me. And he goes, yeah, well, I figured I'd be a man and do it face-to-face. I go, but it wasn't face-to-face. We're face-to-face now. What's the problem? And so we had some difficulties, and he would holler at me from the practice field. Then he called reporters turds, even in media scrums. He would say, now, you turds, I'm going to tell you this. And they would just lap it up. And like me, I don't care. I don't care what you think of me. I'm here doing the interview.
Yep.
You're a character on the stage, and the fans will either like you or not like you. And I understand disrespect for media. I get all that. But Ryan came up to me one day. He goes, Jim, I think I had you wrong. You're not a turd. You're just honest.
There you go.
And so we kind of regained our footing there. And, I guess I don't know. I think when Ryan was playing and Troy was hurt, I put the records together and put them in Steelers Digest. This is the record when Troy's out. It was pretty bad,
Yeah.
And that pointed a finger at Ryan, which I didn't mean to do. And in retrospect, Ryan really was a great player for that era. He really was. He was a great free safety, and he plays a prominent role in my book. Actually, my editor sent back a chapter, and there was a Ryan Clark quote, and he goes, "You've got to highlight this in some way. This is the most, how do you say, clear-eyed definition of Troy Polamalu that I've seen in this book." And I thought Ryan was fantastic. Ryan was even close enough to Troy to poke fun at him at some times.
Oh.
Not everybody was calling him St. Troy, but, the people who are close enough to Troy can jab him, just like close friends can. So Ryan became a star in this book, and I'm looking forward to releasing it.
Yeah, actually, I heard you mention that, and I'm looking forward to being able to pick that up and read it. And why don't, I guess, we would come back and highlight that towards the end. But for those who don't know, this is a biography of Troy?
Biography on Troy Polamalu, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And when will that be getting published so that all of us who have our Troy shrines can completely fulfill them with the full book?
Yeah, absolutely. It's scheduled to come back to me November 6th, so hopefully that gives guys like you time to read it, review it, and promote it. And, hey, if you don't like it, say so, but I think everybody will like it.
Absolutely.
But, it'll be available. I don't know if it'll be on the shelves, but it'll be available for Thanksgiving and Christmas purchasing. This is an easy book to buy for all the Steeler fans in your family. It's just an easy one because women loved him, men loved him, because it's just football. Women loved him because of his style, and kids. This needs to be a book, an anchor in your kid's library. Even if he's not an athlete, just doing things the right way, but also being interesting and mischievous and intelligent, and making for an interesting book, not just writing about a saint who never did anything wrong. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm sorry to have changed gears on you. I know you wanted to talk about that at the end.
Oh, that's all right. It's all good. I can't really tell you how excited I am about that book. I'm a very avid reader, and finding stuff to really occupy you. And Troy was such a, I don't want to say isolated. Isolated is not the right word, but a private guy. And so, there's only a limited amount of information that fans get about Troy. So having a book that would really highlight more on him, who he was, and what formed and shaped him, that's a fantastic thing. And you're absolutely right. It's a perfect Christmas gift for any Steelers fan, because I can't. I mean, we get comments every week. Why can't we bring Troy back? And Steelers fans are never, we don't tend to let go of our heroes, and it'll be, I think, I'm sure it's going to be an enlightening book for everybody.
Well, the reason I say it might not be on the shelves is, I called Barnes & Noble. There are distributors. There are degrees. There's a chain of people who take your money, right? And so, if you have it published by someone, first you have to get an agent. Then he makes the pitch to a major publisher. So the agent takes some money. The publisher takes a lot of money. They send it to a distributor after they have it printed. Printers, naturally, should take your money. They do some work.
Right.
Publishers send it to a distributor who then will drive the books to a bookstore. So the distributor gets a chunk, then the bookstores get half. So, if you're an author, you might get a great deal to begin with, but you're not looking at, I feel bad for people who are not self-publishing and who are self-publishing and don't have a platform like I do. I'm so grateful for it. There's a lot of Steelers fans, guys like you. You're hearing about it now. You're going to pre-promote it, just by the basis of us talking about it. And so it goes all over Twitter, and there's a lot of fans who can. That's what I told Troy about this, and I've talked to Jack Lambert too. Let's keep all those people out of it and keep the money ourselves. And Jack Lambert, he was complaining he had 4 kids in college, and everybody thinks he's as rich as the modern day player. I said, let's do a book. And he said, nah, but he's obviously a target for anybody to do a book. Talk about the great white whale. I think I'm warming up with Troy, the quiet, mysterious guy, to reach for Lambert next. But anyway, so my distributor from the last book in 2008 retired. He didn't like the way the game was being played, and he was good to me. He didn't take much money, and he got the books out in Pittsburgh area. Well, he retired, so I called Barnes & Noble. I said, hey, I'd like to get this book, and they're like, we have all other kind of problems. What are you talking about with your book? I said, well, it's about Troy Polamalu. I think your Pittsburgh market might like it. And they were nasty. We've got viruses. We've got this and that. You've got to call a distributor. So I called a distributor in Indiana. They let me look at a contract, and I'm looking over all these percentages where they're taking this and they're taking that, and the bookstore takes this. And the bookstore, they don't even last. Barnes & Noble has shut down 400 of their 500 stores, and they're expecting people to come in and buy books. I mean, I see this book as your picture glass window book to bring people in, right?
Yep.
At Christmas time, I mean, we have a cool cover, and it's black and gold, and it's just going to draw Steelers fans into their store to buy that and probably something else. But they want to make it hard for you. Plus, they might go out of business if the virus lasts a little longer. I can't trust that I'll have all these books and distributors when I could be selling it on Amazon and just giving up 10%, 20%. I want to give 20% to the Samoan Fund.
Oh, nice.
So, instead of giving all the money to agents and publishers and lawyers, let's give it to Polamalu.
Yeah.
Let's give it to his fund. And it just, I think that's a marketing tool, and people will be glad to contribute in any way. And I'm sorry I took over your show like this with my book, but I'm a little upset at Barnes & Noble. They want to make it so hard for you, and then they wonder why the brick and mortar places are shutting down.
Yeah. It's a pet peeve of mine is bad retailing, because I come from a background where back in the day I ran a video store chain. I owned a 13 store, or didn't own, but ran a 13 video store chain. And I got this pet peeve about bad retailing, and when you make bad decisions in retail. So I have the same thing. I sit there and I go, there's no wonder the brick and mortar stores are shutting down. They don't do a good job.
And they have such a busy chain of command that there's so much nastiness trying to talk to people on the phone.
Oh.
I know that I'm nobody. I just came from out of nowhere, out of the blue, and told them I have a book that you would like. But I'm serious.
Yeah.
They must get calls like that all the time about stupid books. But this stupid book, I think people will like it.
Yeah, and even beyond the Pittsburgh, obviously in the Pittsburgh market, but even beyond, because Polamalu was a recognizable name and a recognizable face, throughout the NFL world. So I can see it having a more far-reaching, impact than just the Pittsburgh market. Obviously, stronger there, but he was a well-liked guy. The Head and Shoulders commercials were probably as close to the Joe Green Kid commercial in popularity as you can get.
Well, let me add this. I emailed Head and Shoulders to get the exact year that they began running the commercials with Troy.
Yeah.
And they said, we can't divulge that information. I said, I'm sorry, I can't divulge your product name in my book then.
Yeah.
Jeez. So I did find myself, at one point I wrote, and Troy was Head and Shoulders the best safety in the league. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to use that term, but it fits. Sometimes I use cliches and it fits. So that's the only reference. I'm not going to, I didn't care about the Head and Shoulders commercials. I always thought that was strange. A guy like Troy was so, credentials. I don't know. Maybe I would be in his shoes too, but he just didn't seem like that guy, and there he was. But he used Head & Shoulders, and he loved the product, so hey, I guess why not?
There you go. All right. Well, let's recircle now and talk, I guess, a little bit about the current team. And
you could cut all that other stuff out if you want.
Oh, no, not at all. I think actually it's a great story, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. I think our viewers will appreciate, or listeners. We don't do a video one yet, so the listeners will appreciate. But so I guess the biggest thing for us that I was interested in is you had a chance to at least see to a certain extent a lot of what went on in camp, and through the pool reports, which was our only venue anymore into this black box of what was going on this year, since there was no Latrobe or not Latrobe, but St. Vincent's, and there was no way for us to go see training camp this season. There's been a lot of conversation, a lot of talk, and a lot of what appears to be excitement. So I'm just going to kind of run through some kind of new faces, old faces kind of thing, just to get your take on these guys, and whether
sure.
The hype is real, the hype is not real. And what kind of maybe impact you think that they are going to be able to provide this season? And I'm actually going to start with what I think is the biggest surprise to most Steelers fans, but wasn't to you guys, because you had him singled out early on when you were seeing him, and that's James Pierre, the undrafted guy getting a spot on the 53.
Yeah, as I wrote, and I used this note in the pool report because we all contributed like 4 or 5 notes.
Yeah.
And then somebody would go through it and put it all together, and then the Steelers would veto some stuff. But they let this one go, and James Pierre, they weren't giving undrafted and late round draft picks much in the way of reps for the first week, I think, because obviously they got to get their team ready.
Yeah.
There really wasn't much time. And the high draft picks get scholarships, and so a guy like the guard, Dotson, could be injured and miss time and still not lose his place. And then he came in and showed his stuff, which was talent. And so people were asking me, how's Bandy look and how's this guy look? I haven't seen any of them. You go to look guys up. So you see the 26 out there, and he's tall. You're like, wow, that's not Justin Lane. Who is this? James Pierre. Wow, James Pierre getting second-team reps to start the second week. That tells you that they like something about him to begin with. That doesn't mean he's won anything.
Right.
That just tells you what the coaches are thinking. That's what I like about spring ball. It gives you an indication of what the coaches want to do. But the guy has to win it still. And he ran a route in the end zone, in the red zone competition with James Washington, and he turned and ran James Washington's route. Now, maybe he guessed right. Maybe they don't like guessing, but he guessed right. The ball hit him right in the gut, and he dropped it. But it was a real smooth pivot for him, and he trusted his instinct, and his instinct was right, and he's 6'2", and I like that. And they needed that. I think they need another backup outside guy to go along with Justin Lane, because Cam Sutton's more of an inside guy. He's doing dime backer stuff, a little safety stuff. And Hilton, of course, is a linebacker.
Right.
A nickel slot linebacker, overhang guy. So that's why I wrote that about James Pierre. And it's not that he continued to have a great camp, but he didn't do bad. Like, he would go into the corner with Chase Claypool into the end zone and near the pylon and go up with Claypool. Claypool would come down with it, make a great, unbelievable hook with his legs to stay in bounds, to show natural receiving instincts all the way around. Now, he beat Pierre, and that's all that went in the pool report. The Pierre's right there with him. So he did things like that. Nothing great, but, geez, this guy's 6'2". He's young. And I believe Sutton got hurt at the end. So that's the James Pierre story. He's out of Florida Atlantic, undrafted, and looks okay.
Good. A guy they can develop, right? A guy they can develop and maybe work with. Well, you mentioned Chase.
And play teams.
Yeah. You mentioned Chase, and that's another story that continued to be told was that he was making highlight-type catches left and right all over the place. The players, when they were interviewed, kept saying things like he's going to be a problem in the league. And of course, now see, I'm a defensive guy, so I generally don't get too hyped up on new offensive players. But I bit in. I bought my Chase Claypool jersey. and did so is the hype real with him? Does he really look the part? And do you think he's got, is he going to push to get time on the field?
He's going to be, he's going to be a red zone guy, and he's going to be a threat down there, and he's going to be used. And he's a first team gunner, and so he's going to be active every game day. So yes, they'll find a way to use him offensively, definitely in the red zone. I don't know if you read I talked to some people not named Mike Tomlin or Kevin Colbert. So, I mean, when they give their opinion, people should realize it. Yeah, I say the Steelers like him because I don't want to give my sources' names away. But it doesn't mean that it's a general feeling for the entire organization. Like, who was the guy that got cut? Well, he liked this guy. I can't remember who we're talking about. But he liked. I know. He liked the center prospect they lost last year better than Hassenauer.
Gotcha.
And I believe Patrick Morris became available, and they didn't claim him and kept Hassenauer. So, people, well, you're wrong. The Steelers apparently didn't. Well, this guy did, and it's a good indication. And another guy probably felt the same way, but the head coaches like the guy who's been working there for a couple months, was on the practice squad last year. He replaced Patrick Morris when they lost Morris last year.
Yep. So,
continuity means something too. So that's why they kept Hassenauer. So my sources that I talked to don't know everything. They don't know everything to a T because Mike Tomlin isn't the guy I was talking to.
Right.
But he believed that Chase Claypool's the number 3 receiver on this team, and it doesn't mean James Washington is having a bad camp because James Washington has improved and everybody likes James Washington. It's just Claypool's that good. Now, don't get the idea that this guy's looking like Randy Moss.
Right.
Just don't get that idea. It's not that spectacular. But there are little things that he does really well, and he looks like the stage is not too big for him, as they say. And he's tall and he can run. And they're doing some cool things with him that I can't talk to you about.
I understand.
But I believe it'll be as soon as it happens, I'm going to tweet it real fast. That's what I've been wanting to tell you guys.
Gotcha. All right. Next up, Eric Ebron. The tight end help or not. And it was interesting to see he was one of the or guys with Vance McDonald, Ebron or McDonald. Blocking aside, because we certainly even heard from him about I haven't seen a sled since college, kind of things. But is he going to provide them that real tight end threat, second kind of guy that they really haven't had for a while?
Well, I mean, they wanted to do it with Darius Green. I can't remember who the other tight end was with Green. Jesse, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of guy. Everybody loves him. I seem to be the one contrarian a bit. Only that he's way too eager to please. He's seeking attention and wants a pat on the back all the time, and that I don't want to say question his toughness. It's just I think he lacks the confidence that he doesn't need to take his helmet off after every rep and emote.
Yeah,
it's a steady stream of emoting. Everything draws comment. And that's great. I mean, he's fitting in, and he's loud, and he has fun on the field, and the defense likes to target him and blow him up. But it's out of respect because he does a lot of talented things. But there are moments where he'll drop easy balls, and I just see Alonzo Jackson. I just see the same guy. I remember some of the facial expressions and also interviewing him on Zoom. Who's this guy remind me of? Who's this guy? Alonzo Jackson. It came to me. I'm not saying he's going to bust like Alonzo, but I think there's a lack of self-confidence that needs to be bolstered a bit. I'm just trying to give you something different. I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but I would like to see less talk, less trying to get attention from the coaches. Constantly, did I do that right? The sled, they have fun with him at the sled. But, okay, we get it. You didn't do this in Detroit, and Detroit's 0-16.
Yeah.
Okay? Now hit the dang thing. Now stop talking. But it's a steady...
Yep.
Personally, I love Alonzo Jackson. Seemed like a really nice guy. Class act. And so is Ebron. I'm just saying, I just see a little similarity. I like Vance McDonald. He's a tough guy. You go to Vance McDonald for an interview, sometimes he might say, piss off. You got to expect that. And people will go, boy, that Vance McDonald's a mean guy. Well, some days he's not, but he doesn't feel the need to tell you how good he is all the time.
Right.
So that's just how I feel. He's just a tougher personality, Vance, than Eric.
Gotcha.
But Eric, man, you see some things. He gets down the field, man.
All right. Now, this is one of my personal, hopeful favorites. And I don't know. Didn't know a lot about him when they drafted him, even though I tried to go find tape. But, it's a smaller school guy, so there's not tons of stuff out there. But in some of the images, man, he definitely looks much more the part than I thought he was going to be. And again, we were hearing some good things about him, and that's Alex Highsmith. And whether or not he is really playing that outside linebacker role the way that they want him to, and how he's managing to make an impact.
He stuck out to me right away, just as an athlete, and the way he carried himself. His helmet never comes off. He's never seeking approval all the time, although he's a rookie. He's working under T.J. Watt, so that won't happen.
Yeah.
T.J. is going to teach him a lot. T.J. is going to teach him as much as he wants to learn. So, and we all know that that's not going to be the prescription. It looks like he can be a player. He's got the right mentor in front of him. He's got the right defensive coaches. But, we got to see. I don't know what else to say,
yeah.
But he looks the part. That's all I can say. As far as technique, I'm not going to be able to tell you about that. You'd have to get someone smarter on your next podcast to tell you that. But he's got long arms. He's got the speed. He's got the size. People keep saying he needs to be stronger. I haven't noticed that. But, you won't notice that until game time.
Absolutely, yeah. And that brings me to another point about the uniqueness, and you sort of touched on it earlier. A lot of these second, I don't want to call them second-tier guys, but JV kind of guys who would have had the opportunity to shine in preseason games, especially, as you get later on, they really got – this is a tough situation for that group of guys, because – as you mentioned, they didn't get a lot of reps early on, and did it even change? Was what kind of made James Pierre so surprising is, did any of those guys really get the kind of opportunity they normally would have, and did you see anything to indicate that they were getting the ability to shine in some ways, I guess?
Well, I'll just say this. I coached American Legion baseball for 20 years. My dad was a Hall of Fame type high school coach around Pittsburgh. I used to tell people I can pick my team after watching them play catch one day. So, Mike Tomlin and his coaches know a lot more about their sport than I knew about mine, and I have a feeling there's a lot to be said in the same regard. They can probably tell right away. Of course, preseason's going to help, especially at some positions like quarterback and cornerback. But there's a 16-man practice squad, so anybody who's in the gray area for them was kept. So I think they're going to be okay. And, when forced to rely on, if I were to ever have to pick my Legion team off playing catch, if there was some kind of emergency and we all had to do that, I would trust my skills over most other coaches to be able to just do that. Sometimes when you're forced to rely on your deep down instincts, you're right.
Yeah.
When you're forced. If you have 4 preseason games to sully that instinct with facts, you might get it wrong, more wrong than you would. So I think it's going to be okay. I think they got the right people. There may be 1 or 2 guys that could have helped. I don't know, but I think they did a good job, I'm sure.
All right. I'm going to flip to some old faces, and I guess we should start with the oldest of the group. That would be Ben. People prior to preseason, the fan base has been a bit riled up, and whether Ben's washed up, Ben's terrible, Ben's not going to come back from this injury. And now that script seems to have flipped in a lot of ways, although we still get some commentary about how they should have signed Cam Newton, how they should have done all this other stuff. But Ben looks, from all reports, looks pretty sharp, maybe even sharper than he has been. And I've watched, some of, I guess, his online documentary series about the injury and whatnot. And it the speculation is he's been playing with this for a long time, and had pain. And this may be the first time in a while where he's pain-free. How has he really looked? Are people overstating things, or does he really look good?
He really looks good. He's throwing lasers, but his motion's a little different. It looks a little funky, a little shorter. Not the big arm wind up that we've seen, where the ball's held up over his head and he flicks it from there. So it's a little tighter. But it looks good. It looks fine. He threw a laser to Ebron running down the sideline the other day, right on the money. And but I think the factor that's going to be more at play in the opener will be his nerves. And he's admitted to nerves on the first day of training camp. So I expect him to have nerves as well. And, he hasn't been a guy that's come out strong most seasons. So
that's true.
But, I mean, the Giants are really a new defense, and they play a 3-4, so that'll help the Steelers. Traditionally, they've done well against 3-4 defenses because that's what they practice against.
Yep.
I know they're not practicing against it like they used to, as often as they used to, but that's still their base. So that'll help. And Giants have a lot of recognizable talent we've seen from drafting so low for so long.
Yeah.
We know they're all college stars, but we'll see how that goes in an opener with new coaches. I think, you get the running game rolling, a few short passes, get these physical receivers in some screen situations, maybe, get Ben, ease him into this with some easy throws, and I think they should be, I think he'll be all right.
Awesome. So the next 2 names I'm going to kind of lump together because I have, and Joe and I, when we've talked about this, have speculated on this, that this may be their hoorah in Pittsburgh, and that's James Conner and Juju. How important is this season to these guys? And, is there, what are they going to have to do to try and get another deal, from the Steelers, or are they destined for free agency at the end of the year?
Well, I think Conner and any running back can be signed in March, and it will depend on how he makes it through this year. He looks great. Juju still looks like he's Ben's favorite.
Yeah.
So I think he'll put up numbers. But, I mean, I think it's coming close to being a foregone conclusion that he'll leave. I just don't see them having the money, especially after signing Hayward.
Yeah.
You know, because that cap's going to bottom out. They're going to lose a lot of money, and they're already over it with 40 people. So, you know, signing Juju, a guy who's taken a lot of criticism in this town from media, a guy who's out of his element as a Samoan from Southern California, the way Troy was, may want to get back to that kind of element. You know, just the hate that is just on the brink. It's just bubbling over right now again.
Yeah.
Because of his social media habits. Whatever. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. That's their problem. But I like Juju. But you know, if Claypool shows, you got Washington, Deontay Johnson. There's three right there. They're not going to break the bank for a fourth guy, even though he'll probably have the highest number of catches anyway. Maybe the highest number of touchdowns. I'm just guessing that Deontay Johnson will have the more yardage.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But Juju could top in that too. But it just doesn't look good for Juju for all of the economic factors, let alone some of the intangibles that might tell him that, you know, I'm not going to give him a hometown discount. You know, let's get back out to the West Coast here, where the media doesn't care so much about football.
Yeah, it is a different world, and I agree with you on the stuff on social media is. I mean, he's a fun guy, and you know, these guys are allowed to have lives, you know, and do things.
Well, let me say this. Zach Banner had a great quote about he put down the phone.
Yep.
And I think we all have to put down the phone. As I'm even talking on one, going on an hour now, but people got to put down the phone. People got to get off Facebook. It's ruining lives.
Yeah.
It really is. And I speak from my own experience and habits. You know, you got to put it down. You got to put it down. So I think Juju would be wise to curtail that. But, you know, how harmful is it? I mean, some of these kids grew up on it and live on it, so they maybe affects them less. But somebody did a study. You know, as Banner pointed out, Al Villanueva told him this.
Yep.
About the distraction. Every time you click on Facebook, that's 20 minutes distraction. Whatever you're doing, and I do it often, I'm like, oh boy, that paragraph was hard to write. I need a break. What's going on Facebook? Anybody like my post today? So you go there, and you go down rabbit holes, and you're like, 20 minutes later, you're going to write another paragraph. It's a killer.
Yep.
It really is a distraction. It distracts your creativity. It distracts a lot of people. So I think Juju would be wise to put it down a little bit, but I'm not going to bust his chops over it.
Exactly. All right. As you mentioned, we are getting, and I greatly appreciated time. We're getting a little long in the pod here, but I got really two more questions for you. One is a player, and it's a guy who I think we've remained fairly positive about, and we just, you know, we keep looking at him the same way we used to look at Bud Dupree, which is, you know, he's improving, but he was going to be developmental from the beginning, and he keeps getting better. But he has sparked a lot of fan ire, and that's Terrell Edmunds. You know, this is, I think, kind of an important year for Terrell Edmunds. He needs to have that kind of breakout season that Bud had to earn his way. But I think, you know, they'll have a fifth-year option possibly on him, but he needs to show up. Does he look better? Does he look like he's more comfortable? Does he look like he's fitting in with Minkah? And is that tandem going to be not to circle back around, and certainly not to throw aspersions that they're going to be Troy and Ryan Clark? But I mean, do they look like they're going to start to be a little more simpatico in how they're playing?
Well, you know, that's another game day question. Terrell's coverage skills, have they improved? Some of it looks really good during training camp. And we all know he can run, he's in shape, he can hit, he can be disruptive. There's a lot to like. but his coverage skills as a center fielder really doesn't allow them to use Minka like they're talking about using and then not talking about using, whatever that was all about. But you'd like to have interchangeable back there, and there's some question about Terrell's coverage skills. So that's the only question I have. Otherwise, he looks better than Sean Davis, and Sean Davis is here to help now.
Yep.
Maybe Sean can play more center field when they go 3 safeties, and then they can free Minka up to do his Carnell Lake stuff.
Yep.
I like to compare him to Carnell Lake more than any of the other safeties, and Carnell was even a strong safety anyway, but he could do so much, and Minka's like that. Minka has more Ed Reed in him than Carnell had, so that's a nice combination all the way around.
Yeah. And then the last player on my list, because I'm looking at ways that the defense can get better, and considering how good they were, but the last guy on my list is Stephon Tuitt, who, now that Cam got his deal, said he's looking for 100. And a lot of the feedback on that has been, well, you got to stay healthy. And he's had, the thing about Tuitt is early in the seasons,
I don't know. What's all that beeping?
I'm not sure.
Go ahead. What do you want to know about Tuitt? He looks like a monster.
Yeah, he looks like a monster early in the season, but and he was putting up all pro type numbers last year before he got hurt. Do you think that he has the way he looks right now that he's gonna be able to make those kind of contributions and maybe last through the season? I know that's a speculative question regardless, but how's he looking?
We've all seen enough to it to know his potential, and that's all I can tell you. I mean, defensive tackles really don't show all they do in training camp. And we all know what Tuitt looks like. He's healthy. I expect a great season from him and Hayward. It's exciting.
Awesome. Well, Jim, I'm going to let that wrap us up, and I appreciate your time. Steel City Insider, I saw you running a flash sale. So if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. I'm telling you, if you miss out on, I've started the hashtag Wex Knows. If you miss out on what he's got to show, and it's not just, follow him on Twitter, because it's not just, football. You'll get some music knowledge too. Cause I've noticed a couple, and commented on some tweets that you've thrown out there about music as well. But Wex knows, so you should follow him. Anything, let the folks know how to get at you, how to follow you, where to find you. If they don't already, they should.
Yeah, it's just at Jim Wexell, Wexell. Steel City Insider is part of CBS 7 Sports. And the book will be out, and you'll see it everywhere, because you'll be promoting it, right?
Absolutely.
Give me your address so I can get the book so you can review it.
Absolutely.
And, hey, rip it. If it's bad, rip it. But I'll take that chance.
Yeah, when it comes
anyway,
out.
Brian, I got to go. I really appreciate all the time, and I'm grateful for you promoting it and the kind words. It was very nice. And so, anyway, thank you for this, and we'll talk later.
All right. Thanks, Jim. We appreciate it. And
okay.
For everybody else, that's going to wrap things up on this edition of Steel City Underground Podcast. Just as a reminder, as we like to say, be safe, be good, and be kind, because it's chaos out there.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.